Hi, I'm Dr. Gerry Fishkin.
Hi, I'm Julie-Ann Good.
And welcome to Stout! Welcome to my new segment from the mind of Dr. Gerry Fishkin. This has been an incredible week for me, and I'm filled with gratitude and joy, and I want to share that with you. On Monday, it was announced that my book, The Science of Shame and Its Treatment, won the prestigious Eric Hoffer Award as the 2017 Best Self-Help Book of the Year. This major accomplishment has special meaning for me, and I want to tell you why. During my third year of college, Eric Hoffer's seminal work, The True Believer, was required reading in advanced social psychology. And up to that point, my psychology curriculum and emphasis was hardcore empiricism, the scientific method. And then there was Eric Hoffer. His insights into the human condition and his inimitable way of expressing his thoughts excited me and has continued to influence my thinking about individuals and their motivations. I wanted to know more about who this man was and how he came to develop his ideas regarding individual motivations for joining mass movements. So, who was this man, Eric Hoffer? Eric was born in the Bronx, New York, in 1898, where I was born, but not in 1898. His parents were immigrants from Imperial Germany, and the only language spoken at home was German. By age 5, Hoffer could read in both English and his parents' native German. And when he was 5 years of age, his mother fell down a flight of stairs with him in her arms, and his mother died 2 years after the fall. By age 7, possibly because of that fall, he lost his eyesight and also his memory. When he was 15 years old, his eyesight inexplicably returned. Fearing that he might lose his eyesight again, he seized on the opportunity to read as much as he could. He stated that when his eyesight came back, he was filled with an enormous hunger for the printed word. He said, quote, "I read indiscriminately everything within reach, both English and German," and he never abandoned his reading habits. His father died when he was a young man. With $300 of insurance money from his father's death, he took a bus to Los Angeles and spent the next 10 years living on Skid Row, reading occasionally, writing, and working at odd jobs. Hoffer tried to enlist in the U.S. Army at age 40 during World War II, but he was rejected because of a hernia. Instead, he began working as a longshoreman in the docks of San Francisco. In 1943, becoming a member of the Longshoremen's and Warehousemen's Union, and he was writing between these assignments. So he did that work just so he could write. Eric Hoffer's first book, The True Believer, was published in 1951, and he continued working as a longshoreman and professional writer, philosopher, until leaving the docks in 1967. Also, in 1967, he was given a tour of the White House by President Lyndon Johnson, who had invited him after seeing The Longshoreman on a television program. The following year, President Johnson appointed Eric Hoffer to a presidential commission to explore violence and protest, which was a bit about what his True Believer was about. In 1970, Eric Hoffer withdrew from public life, saying, quote, "I'm going to crawl back into my hole where I started, period. I don't want to be a public person or anybody's spokesman, period. I'm not the type for it and I dislike it, period. I'm getting off the train, period," end of quote. What a guy. He said of his decision to withdraw, quote, "Any man could ride a train, but only a wise man knows when to get off," end of quote. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan honored Eric Hoffer by awarding him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award. On May 21st, 1983, Eric Hoffer died in San Francisco. He never married. Throughout his life, Hoffer never abandoned his working class roots and remained working class in his habits, associations, and environment. His book, The True Believer, was a study on the nature of mass movements and the types of individuals who join them. In it, he stated that the reasons that the inferior elements of a nation can exert a marked influence on its course is that they are wholly without reverence toward the present. He stated that these individuals see their lives and the present as spoiled beyond remedy, and that they are ready to waste and wreck both. Hence, their recklessness and their will to chaos and anarchy. He stated that the people that join mass movements crave to dissolve their spoiled, meaningless selves in some soul-stirring, spectacular communal undertaking. Hence, their proclivity for united action. In that regard, he wrote that the disaffected are found in all walks of life, but are most frequent in the following categories: the poor, misfits, outcasts, minorities, adolescent youth, the ambitious, those in the grip of some vice or obsession, the impotent in body and mind, the inordinately selfish, the bored, and sinners. How interesting that this book, written in 1951, has incredible relevance today with regard to the violence we see perpetrated by radicals and extremists around the world today. Eric Hoffer believed, as I do, that, quote, children are the keys to paradise, end quote. However, when one's childhood is fraught with and punctuated by trauma, violence, neglect, emotional and physical abandonment, the child's psychological and social development, self-knowledge is seriously interrupted, impaired, setting the stage for addictions, emotional and personality disorders. With regard to compassion, Eric Hoffer stated that compassion stands apart from the continuous traffic between good and evil proceedings within us. It is my view that when toxic self-talk and critical self-judgments, which Hoffer referred to as evil proceedings within us, are reduced or eliminated, the components of compassion, that is, attunement and empathy, both for self and others, can flow, and compassion can flourish. And regarding its curative effects, Eric Hoffer said, and I quote, "Compassion is the antitoxin of the soul. Where there is compassion, even the most poison impulses remain relatively harmless." I will talk more about the nature of compassion in an upcoming episode of Psyched. So in the end, it was Eric Hoffer's belief that America meant freedom. And what is freedom? But the capacity to feel like oneself. It has been my professional journey to understand what oneself means and to treat the issues that block one from true self-knowledge and self-expression. It is with great pride that I accept this award and know that for time and all eternity, my name will be associated with Eric Hoffer's. I want to thank the Eric Hoffer Foundation for bestowing this great honor upon me, and I want to thank you. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you and wish each of you all my best.
Look around you. Everyone you see shares a deep and terrible secret that no one ever talks about. It is, in fact, one of the best kept secrets of all time, as universal and natural as the air we breathe, and just as pervasive. No one is immune to it. Look inside yourself. We listen to it instinctively, hold it closely, impetuously, and follow it without question every moment of our lives. The secret is our inner voice. The self-talk, the primal and silent internal communication that form alongside our psyche, feeding us constant messages that control our behavior. We hear it, but we can never see or feel or detect it in any other way. If you'd like to learn more about the relationship of early life abuse, trauma, neglect, violence, and its relationship to addiction, please pick up a copy of my new book. The Science of Shame and Its Treatment, available at the bookstore or online. Thank you very much.
And welcome back to Psyched. We are so happy to have you with us. We are going to discuss Gerry's beautiful, wonderful piece on Eric Hoffer. That was an inspiring story. And thank you. And congratulations again on your award.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
I am full of gratitude and joy, believe me.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about Eric Hoffer and his philosophy and his quotes, because he was a man, I think, that was ahead of his time. I mean, I believe that a lot of his philosophy can really be transported into what we're going through today.
As I said, in 1951, he wrote The True Believer. He was adamantly against totalitarian states. His parents came from Germany. It was before the rise of Nazism. He hated and was fearful of mass movements, and that's why he wrote The True Believer. And here is a man that never had 1 minute of formal education, not elementary school, not middle school, not high school or college, self-taught. 100%, and that's what intrigued me about him when I first read him in college.
Right.
Incredible man.
Yeah, intuitive wisdom. That's what I got from it, and from humble beginnings.
And so I took I had about 8 pages of his quotes, and I took about 19 of them and distilled them down for us to present to our studio audience, because I really want you to understand who this man was, the relevance of his thinking and his ideas and his passion are so important today. And that's, again, what we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
so here we go, Jer.
Take it away, J.A.
Okay. The pleasure we derive from doing favors is partly in the feeling it gives us that we are not altogether worthless. It's a pleasant surprise to ourselves.
And I think this is when he was talking about compassion, that sometimes, he's very much an existentialist, I truly believe. Yes, he was a social psychologist, in many ways, a philosopher without a degree.
Yes.
But talking about the individual, and the individual is always looking for something outside of himself, and Hoffer saying, no, it's within you.
Yes, it
but
is.
when you allow yourself to give to another person, you get a sense of joy or some kind of feeling that's so different from just taking care of yourself. And Hoffer was really into that.
Right.
He really, at the end, he's talking about the individual joining a movement. But what about the individual amongst himself, the individual within himself or herself? And who is that person? And I think Hoffer's fear was that emotional isolation and loneliness and low self-esteem and all that stuff is the principal cause of people joining mass movements, to feel a part of something, to feel good about themselves, to feel like they have a leader. And this is a terrific problem in our world today, and we can see that over and over. And Julie-Ann, you and I are going to do a segment on mass movements and what's happening today with
it's
regard
fascinating.
to we're not
and
I want to let
especially all the protests that are going on in the world right now.
And free speech and not free speech,
right.
And the things that we see in our world today are critically important. Now, folks, our show is not political necessarily in nature, and we try, don't we, to keep it apolitical. But sometimes in life, it just doesn't happen. Sometimes in life, we can't forget what's going on in the world, and we want to be a mirror, a reflection of that. So we will be talking about that in relationship to some of these other issues.
We're all affected by politics right now, whether we want to join in or not.
And regardless of whether we're, green or not here, that is evergreen, things go on in the world, and as we've seen with Hoffer, things just don't go away. They just have a way of returning over and over again. Cycling.
Okay, so let's go on to the next one.
Give us another one.
faith in a holy cause is to a considerable extent a substitute for lost faith in ourselves. That's deep.
Well, I think that's the essence of what Eric Hoffer was talking about with regard to people who join mass movements. The human emptiness that he talks about is so profound amongst many individuals in our world that they look for something to fill them up. And so they don't have faith in themselves. They don't understand what it means to have faith in yourself.
A lot of people don't even know themselves nowadays.
And you know,
It's incredible. And, working with addiction, as I do, and
right.
you do,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, I don't know how I got here.
Right.
I don't know who I am.
Right.
All of my energy is going to the outside, and
Right.
you just ask them the basic question, who am I?
Who are you? Who am I? And so interesting that so many people don't have a sense of who they are. And in our world today, I think that whole idea of narcissism is so overblown. People are afraid to take accomplishment or to say that I feel good about myself, or I've done this. I think that it throws, the idea is it's going to throw you into another category of narcissism or egoistic.
It's got to
or
be
some-
healthy. It's got to be a healthy balance.
And I think there has to be
Yeah,
a healthy
there-
balance.
there
So,
does.
at the end of the day, you have to know who you are
But,
in order to have a full and happy life.
And the whole thing is with this, faith in yourself, faith in your accomplishments, faith that you can go ahead and you can be successful within your own realm of reality.
Absolutely.
I think that's what this statement says to me.
It says that to me too, but it goes a lot deeper. This is, again, Hoffer's existentialism, that we have to understand who we are in order to have a full and complete life. And I think, Julie-Ann, this is the goal in many respects of our work here at Psyched, to help individuals understand that.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Go
Let's move
on,
on.
girl.
Let's move on. Wise living consists perhaps less in acquiring good habits than in acquiring as few habits as possible. Oh, I can attest to this one.
Go, you shoot. Go for it, girl.
Well, you figure that habits can be baggage almost.
Habits
You
are
know?
baggage, and they limit they limit us.
Well, and we become attached to, I'm doing this, I'm doing that,
Right.
and this is who I am, or my habits. And a lot of times they're bad habits, right?
We
They're
identify
just-
with our habits,
Right.
and our self-worth is identified with our habits. And so, I couldn't agree with you more.
Less
I think
baggage. Less baggage to
isn't
carry
he
around
say
in
that?
life.
Yeah, much less. Folks, less baggage. Don't.
That's a
as we say,
takeaway.
don't schlep this stuff around with you.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. The takeaway for today.
The takeaway from one of them.
Less baggage.
I hope so. Okay, I'd like to throw this one out because this is something that I've been playing with my whole life, really. Hoffer said, and I'm going to quote this: "The misery of a child is interesting to a mother. The misery of a young man is interesting to a young woman. The misery of an old man is interesting to nobody." What do you think of that?
Ooh.
Pretty heavy. In our culture today, we don't revere the elderly. We don't revere the old. When I was a young student majoring in psychology and minoring in cultural anthropology, we studied many cultures, but I looked at, in comparison to the United States, in our culture, it's like when you get to be a certain age, you might as well be on an iceberg and they send you out to sea because you're not relevant. In our culture, youth is relevant. Youth is revered, admired, correct?
Right.
But being of age is not relevant. And I think that's wrong. There are many other cultures, the Chinese, the Japanese, many Asian cultures revere their elderly and see them as elders, as spokespeople, as philosophers, as someone who's lived their life and can impart that knowledge to the youth. not in our culture. And I think Hoffer was talking about that.
And I think also, too, he was trying to point out that when we're younger, this is more like the drama of life. How especially people in their 20s get really consumed with trauma, and this is reality TV, and I should be acting like this, and things should be going like that. Shoulding on themselves, yeah.
Shoulding.
So I think the whole thing is if you start carrying all of that with you your entire life and not letting it go, a lot of times people, when they get to be older, end up alone with their misery.
That's correct.
And that's tragic.
That's right. But again, we don't revere seniors in our culture. We have absolutely no reverence for the aged, the elderly. We absolutely don't honor that, and I think it's important to honor that. Moving on.
Yes. It still holds true that man is most uniquely human when he turns obstacles into opportunities. I love that one.
I love that one too.
I've lived by that sort of motto most of my life.
Do you know the Chinese ideogram for crisis and dangerous opportunity is the same? And I've written about that in my first 3 books. The ideogram for crisis and dangerous opportunity is the same. It's a hard concept for us to understand in our culture, because in our Western culture, we're very linear. But in the Asian culture, especially the Chinese culture, the way they think about things is more global. And I think that it says here that obstacles or crisis can really be a dangerous opportunity to explore not only our universe, but ourself in the universe and how we handle ourselves. And, when we can reframe a crisis into an opportunity or dangerous opportunity, it gives us a way of looking at things differently. So we're not held back or compelled to not try something new, We actually can explore ourselves and our own potential. And I think that's huge. And that's what Eric Hoffer was really talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at what can I do with this negative set of events that I have had and turn this into wisdom from this situation.
Right.
And then go and teach somebody else.
Oh my God, that is so, Julie-Ann, that was really important. I mean, important for me to hear you say that, because it's really about teaching, isn't it?
It is.
And when we talked about the elderly and the aged in our culture here, these individuals can be teachers.
You bet.
I don't think we should send somebody off in an iceberg because they reach a certain age and they're not perceived as relevant anymore. They may not be on the cover of GQ, if you will, but they have knowledge and history and experience. And if we let that experience, if we lose that, we've lost part of our culture, I think.
Right. We need to pass on our wisdom.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love that. I really do. Thank you.
Addiction is the greatest public health crisis of our time and the #1 killer of young people in America today. At Beginnings Treatment Centers, we offer safe, modern, effective treatment for substance abuse and addiction. Minutes from the beach in beautiful Orange County, California, Beginnings offers comfortable surroundings, private chefs, and a dedicated clinical staff. Beginnings makes recovery possible for you and for your loved ones. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 800-387-6907 right now for a free confidential assessment.
Hi, and welcome back to Sight. Today, Gerry and I have a very special guest that we are Skyping in from Chicago, Dr. Chris Stout, who is the founding director of the Center for Global Initiatives. We are going to be talking about a lot of the humanitarian efforts that he has been doing globally and with his colleagues and the consortium that he's working with. So welcome, Dr. Stout. How are you doing?
It's great to be here. Good to see you guys. Thank you.
Good to see you too. It's been a long time. We had met about 2013 at
That's right.
my master's graduation, and he's doing some fabulous work back then. We're going to do an update, but I would like for you to tell our guests your background, what you've been doing with the center.
Sure. Background is trained as a clinical psychologist and worked in private practice, worked in hospital settings, always taught, sometimes at professional schools, and then most recently at medical schools, and sort of made a transition in a sense of bringing psychology to the table in global health issues. And got involved at the University of Illinois College of Medicine has a Center for Global Health. I'm involved with that and an advisor. And it's really sort of through that and through some things that I sometimes refer to as sort of becoming an accidental humanitarian that I sort of made this gradual shift over the last 10, 15 years into doing work at our nonprofit Center for Global Initiatives and working in particular in education and global health.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful.
That's quite the significant accomplishments you've done over the last 10, 15 years. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the humanitarian intervention consortium that you've been working with lately?
Sure. It's sort of been one of our natural evolutions. A little bit of background. We had, through the center, we've been involved in projects, in particular, like one of our sweet spots is in Africa, in Tanzania. And we're an all-volunteer organization. We all have day jobs. We all have, other demands and challenges with our time. And we hit a point in which we were going to participate with a USAID grant, and we found that really if we were to do that, myself and my other directors just really didn't have the ability to go and be involved in doing, being away and doing that kind of a project. And at the same time, parallel to that, we found that there are a number of other kind of more university-based, medical school-based colleagues of ours that were going to be applying for a variety of different kinds of grants, Fogarty's and whatnot, so we're doing international work. And oftentimes the nature of those grants these days, which I'm very pro about, is that they are multidisciplinary. And you might have someone that's maybe pediatricians, a group of pediatricians going for a grant, but they may also require child psychologists for certain kinds of things of a psychological nature. And while they may be very involved in leaders in pediatrics at their university, they may really not come across a whole lot of child psychologists. So where would they go find one? So the idea behind the consortium is to bring together a number of people, again, no charge, there's no dues or anything like that, but people from university settings, medical school settings, graduate schools, NGOs, nonprofits, US-based, non-US based, to have sort of a work group together where we could come together on different kinds of projects and be able to bring in different kinds of expertise. So even if maybe we didn't have a specialty within an orientation with 1 or 2 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon, we might be able to pull someone in rather than just someone trying to go search for someone that may be not a good fit to their grant or someone that they may not have any background on.
Yeah, so that's incredible. How have you been able to bring all of these people together? Because it sounds like a huge amount of talent that you're pooling from.
Well, it's sort of like, thank goodness for the internet. I mean, that's really been kind of the key way that we've done it. We developed a memorandum of understanding. So that memorandum is just basically a straightforward, simple document, sort of outlining the fact that we actually have a relationship between whoever it is that's part of that. All the parties sign off on it, and then we use, of all sophisticated technologies, we have a Facebook page for the consortium. And people that can post to that. It's a private group, but people. Not everyone can post to it, but anyone that would like to can see it and then can learn about it and see what some of our projects are, and then get in contact with us to see about signing an MOU. Our center provides a newsletter free of charge on a monthly basis that's anywhere from 20 to 30 pages about grants and about other kinds of opportunities and things like that. All the consortium members are a part of that, as well as others. We just most recently had a set of meetings, which is our second grouping of meetings, and we did that all virtually via webinar. Our pioneering meeting, which was about 2 years ago, was done in Chicago. So we had some people that could fly in or drive in, or were already in Chicago, and then we tried to record it in certain times of day, so some of our African partners could call in and be a part of the experience as well. So it's all really kind of organic and MacGyvered and kind of put together the ways that we can make it happen, again, because we have a budget of zero for it, but we're still able to produce. We published white papers, and we've been able to do some, I think, nice work on a variety of different kinds of projects.
So hi, Chris. I haven't met you before. You have a relationship with Julie-Ann. It's just a pleasure to, here we are, and I will be in Chicago next week, and I'll look forward to, maybe we can hook up for an hour. Love to see you.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Likewise.
So on a personal level, the name of our show is Psyched, and it's really about what people out there need to know about what you're doing, but more important, how they can participate. So not only do you have the people that are now, attached to you or learning about you, we want to bring our listeners, our viewers, to your table. So what can you tell us about, on an interpersonal level, we can bring our people into your fold?
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful opportunity. We're here really to sort of be, I kind of call it open sourcing humanitarian intervention. So I'm sure a lot of your viewers, may have an idea for a certain kind of project, or may want to participate in something, or may want to, help join in on a project that we already have. And that's certainly, we welcome that wholeheartedly. We've also worked with people that say, I have a desire, I went on a mission trip, or I went on a vacation, or I know a colleague in another country or whatever. We tend to be more so globally outside of the U.S. base, but not exclusively. But I want to help them, and I don't want to just write a check. I want to work on a project. I want to do something, but I don't want to create my own 501c3. Right. I don't want to have to build a website. I don't want to have to go to the IRS. I don't want to have to get a board of directors. Right. That's all organization and business stuff. What I want to do is do a passion project around whatever that passion might be. Right. And that's one of the things that we've tried to do to be able to be helpful to people, to kind of accelerate and open source that. So if anyone would like to come to our website, which is centerforglobalinitiatives.org, they can, and they'll find a variety of free tools that they can download, books and resources that they can download, videos and podcasts that they can watch and listen, and just a variety of different kinds of tools available to them. And the center has a separate from the consortium, also a Facebook page, where we have a little community there. We've got, I think at latest count, over 5,100 members, which is wonderful. That's great. So any of your viewers can come join us there, share their projects. They can sample and they can see what we post. We post updates from World Health Organization and a variety of different news feeds, as well as people sharing projects and looking for help and assistance.
Perfect. And what we're going to do at the end of the show is to flash up your contact information. This is really wonderful. You mentioned the word passion, and I really attached to that because, our show has to do with health and wellness, but it also has to do with addictions and shame and abuse and it's fairly centered, but we have a lot of passionate viewers. And wonderful. I think because they're naturally attracted to the kinds of things that Julie-Ann and I are talking about. And so what we will do is flash your contact information up at the end of the show. So
great.
We'll have that for you.
And I would say, too, one of the things that, I certainly know that I've heard from a lot of people, and I felt this and experienced it myself too. One of the ways of getting through difficult times, be it stress, be it addiction, be it mental illness kinds of issues, is being involved in other people's lives as a helper. Absolutely. And being able to provide those kinds of things. And our perspective with the open sourcing of humanitarian intervention is that it shouldn't be hard to help others. It shouldn't be so hard to do good work, and that's kind of our philosophy, that can be very overwhelming, can be very, very intimidating. People just say, man, this is I don't want to write a check, but man, I can't do all this other stuff either. Well, it's kind of our job, and one of the things we try to do to be able to help people have that experience.
So where are you looking for the help now? What type of volunteer organization or assistance could you use right now? I mean, what's one of your main projects that you could use more help with?
A key one right now, which has been a long-term friend and colleague since the 90s, since before our center even existed, is that we're working with 2 hospitals and an orphanage in Tanzania. So people can, we've tried a variety of different kinds of things of sending materials and things. It's very expensive and not always successful. Not everything that you send winds up there. But we've done opportunities where people can go if they would like to have. Some people say, hey, I don't have a passport. I don't need to go anywhere, but I want to, kids and kindergartens and hospitals and clinics are important to me. I'm happy to, help with fundraising. I'm happy to, to do that. We certainly they can come to our website, read about the projects and make a donation. That goes a long way. Since we have none of us are paid, almost every penny of every dollar then goes to whatever the cause is, which is also very nice, a good economic model. But then also some people do want to have that kind of experience. So if there's a project that we have going on that someone would like to go in country and volunteer for, I can hook them up with it. One of the other tools we have on our website is a company called Fly for Good, which is sort of like a humanitarian travel service. So they help if there are humanitarian airfares that they can get a discount and be able to. I've used them about 4 times to go to different countries in Africa and been very happy with them. So again, the whole idea is depending upon what the person's spark or, Gerry, as you've said, noted as passion, that if it's something that we can then help augment, support, and make happen, that's kind of what our job is.
That's
Perfect.
beautiful.
And so it sounds like the organization is all set up. People just have to show up, right?
Right. Yeah. It's show up to our website, pour a cup of coffee, do some drilling and clicking around, see what appeals to them. And even at like some of the things that we don't get so involved in, like we're not necessarily involved in engineering projects, but someone might be very interested in building bridges and drilling wells and things like that. Well, I happen to know someone in a sister NGO nonprofit that is involved with that. So if they might have an engineering bent or something like that, we can probably connect them up with others. So even if it might not be something in our general sweet spot of who we know or what we do, then we can probably connect them with a colleague as well.
Wonderful.
Okay. So any closing words?
Again, thanks. We're here to make, to help people scale with their humanitarian projects, either supporting some of the stuff that we're doing, which would be great, or helping them with the work that they want to do. A final quick plug, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
We are at the tail end, knock on wood. Gerry, in particular, you would appreciate this, finishing up a book called Why Global Health Matters. So it has its own website, whyglobalhealthmatters.org, if people are interested in it. We're very fortunate. Jody Williams, who is a Nobel laureate from 1999 for her work with getting rid of landmines, wrote the foreword for us.
Right.
We've got 29 chapters. We've got over 60 authors. It was, again, a passion, a real work of love and labor of all of us. We hope it will be out probably by mid or late July. So if people have an interest in particular of that, I'd encourage them to come take a look at the website, Why Global Health Matters, and then be able to purchase it hopefully by mid-July at their favorite bookseller.
Okay, we'll also put that up on the site.
Yeah,
too.
we'll absolutely. And when your book comes out, Chris, let us know. Contact us or contact Julie-Ann, and we'd like to have you back.
Oh,
and to promote this. I just
Love
wanted,
that.
as an afterword, I was watching Nightline last week, and they did a special on Tanzania.
Oh, really?
Absolutely, and it wasn't the first. It was the second that I watched. And there are initiatives there. It's a very poor state. I was so compelled to I mean, the emotion watching the educational process in Tanzania, what we're bringing to these kids in food and supplies, but more importantly, knowledge. And I think that this is so important. The work that you're doing is so critical. So please, as soon as your book is ready and out there for people, come on back. We'll have you on the show. We'll do this again and make sure that your word is out.
Well, thank you. You're as generous as you are gracious. I will take you up on that. Thank you.
Very
All right.
good.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. It's so good
Bye.
to see you again.
Likewise, Julie-Ann, and great to meet you, Jerry.
Nice to meet you too, and hopefully we can hook up in Chicago. Love it.
That'd be great. Let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Absolutely, we will. We'll get your information at the end of after we finish rolling.
Perfect.
Very good.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on Psyched.
If you appreciate what we are presenting to you on Psyched, I want you to come and visit us at Patreon. That helps fund our show and gives us the opportunity to bring better broadcast material to you on an ongoing basis.
And we would like to thank our sponsors, TherapyCable.com, Beginnings Treatment Centers, and Parker's Brothers Publications, the publishers of Dr. Fishkin's newest multi-award winning book.
And remember, we operate on the if principle. Here at Psyched, if we've been interesting, informative, and fun, I encourage you to join us for our next episode of Psyched on TherapyCable.com.
Hi. I want to talk to you about a special friend that passed away recently. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you've had somebody pass away recently also. Pamela Scafidi was one of the most important people in my life. I was honored to have known her for 23 years. We used to work together at Scottsdale Memorial Hospital in Scottsdale, Arizona. And she was sunshine. She came and said hello to me, and we had this wonderful friendship that was almost like if we would have went to high school together. We got into trouble at work and got called into the office, and it was really kind of fun because we had a very boring job. We did medical transcriptions, so we had to be quiet a lot. We weren't quiet women. We were women that wanted to go out and explore life. She was wonderful. And the most amazing thing about Pam is that she had type 1 diabetes. She had suffered with diabetes for 50 years of her life, since she was 11 years old. You would never know, because she walked around with smiles on her face and laughter and just loved life, loved people. But she had had a series of medical events, and she finally had had enough. So she passed away on May 4th, and I will never forget her. And you can probably relate too, that you've lost somebody that it's hard at first, right? You don't think that you're going to get over it. But every day goes by and life does get better. But if you're going through a situation that you've lost somebody recently, please reach out and get some assistance. It takes a while to get over the grief and loss, but you do get over it, and you do get better, and you honor the people that you survived. So, rest in peace, Pam. I love you.